What are 3 key takeaways that we got from this conversation? Number 1, relationships are the backbone of a successful life, both in business, in your career, in your family life, in every facet of your life. Strong relationships are the backbone of health, wealth, and happiness. And good communication is the key to successful relationships. And so what constitutes good communication? Well, in the first of the 3 key takeaways, Charles Duhigg elaborates on traits exhibited by successful communicators.
And there are these people who are consistent super communicators who can connect with almost anyone. And what we know about them is that they do a couple of things differently from everyone else. First of all, they ask a lot more questions, like 10 to 20 times as many questions as the average person. They tend to reciprocate vulnerabilities and authenticity, as you mentioned before, but also reciprocate laughter or reciprocate sadness. If I see someone who mentions something kind of sad, I don't try and cheer them up. I try and say, I'm really sorry. That sounds really hard. Like, tell me more about that. But the most important thing that they do is that they show you they want to connect. Because conversation is so overwhelming and potentially scary, right? Particularly a hard conversation, something you've been dreading talking about. That when someone shows you that they want to connect with you, when they notice that you've said something emotional, they meet you emotionally, when you say something practical, like, look, we got to figure where we're going on vacation next year. And I say, okay, let's talk about airfares, right? That's how we show that we want to connect with that person. And it's that showing of desire of connection that can make all the difference.
That is the first key takeaway. Key takeaway number 2. There are 3 types of conversations that people can have. There are practical conversations, emotional conversations, and social conversations. People want to be helped, heard, or hugged. In this key takeaway, Charles Duhigg shares why it's important to understand which type of conversation you're having in order for the conversation to be successful.
We think of discussions as being about one thing, but actually there's many kinds of conversations. And they all fall into these 3 buckets: the practical, the social, and the emotional. And what they said is, you were having an emotional conversation with your wife, and she was having a practical conversation back with you. And so you guys could not hear each other. We're literally using different parts of our brains. And it's all about matching, the matching principle, it's known, to have the same kind of conversation at the same time, which, as you pointed out, is so powerful because that's how we get other people to trust us, to listen to us. And that's how we learn who they are. And actually, when I get home from work now and I'm start complaining about my day, Liz, my wife, will say to me, do you want me to help you come up with solutions, or do you just need to vent and you want me to listen to you?
And so understanding what type of conversation you're having, is it practical? Is it emotional? Or is it social? That is the second of the 3 key takeaways. Finally, key takeaway number 3. We've all been at those cocktail parties where we're making small talk and it feels kind of boring, right? Small talk in which people ask for the facts of our lives. So what do you do? Where'd you grow up? Right? When we're relaying a litany of facts, we don't deeply connect with people. So how do we ask deep questions of others, the kinds of questions that help us connect with one another? How do we ask those questions in a way that feels unintrusive? Well, in this 3rd and final key takeaway, Charles Duhigg shares a tactic that we can use in order to ask people not about the facts, but rather about their feelings and their experiences. And it's a tactic that works even in, and especially in, professional contexts or in environments where we're just getting to know somebody for the first time, perhaps a future business partner or a client.
Don't ask someone about the facts of their life. Ask them how they feel about their life. If instead of asking you, where did you grow up? I said, I'm just wondering, like, what was the best part about growing up where you did? Did you grow up in a place that's good for childhood? Then
Right.
like, you're going to mention to me that you're from Cincinnati, right?
Right.
But then you're also going to tell me so much more about what your experiences were like there. And the best part is, once you do that, it's totally natural for me to answer the same question I just asked without you having to ask it. oh, you grew up in Cincinnati and you had like a great experience. It's funny. I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And like, it was the same thing. Like I was a big fish in a small pond and it felt wonderful. That's how we start having a dialogue back and forth, is when you ask about feelings rather than facts.
And so that is the third and final key takeaway from this conversation with Charles Duhigg.